Mail order bride arrived too late, the cowboy whispered. You're right on time for me. The small frontier town woke slowly under a pale morning sky. Dust moved gently across the empty road as the sun rose behind distant hills. Most people already knew the cowboy before seeing him. He was a quiet man who kept to himself, known more for his steady work than for conversation. He lived alone on a ranch just outside town, far enough away to avoid noise but close enough to help when someone needed it. His days followed the same pattern. He woke early, worked hard, and returned home tired but calm. Years earlier, life had been different. He had once believed in building a family and sharing laughter around a warm table, but time and loss had changed him. He stopped expecting much from life and focused instead on doing what needed to be done. People respected him because he was reliable. If a fence broke, he fixed it. If someone needed help moving cattle, he showed up without being asked twice. Still, when work ended, he returned to silence. The ranch house felt too large for one person, but he never complained. One evening at the town store, an old friend suggested something unusual. The friend spoke about a letter service that helped lonely people find companionship. The idea felt strange to him at first. He did not believe anyone would choose a man like him, someone who had little to offer beyond honesty and hard work. But the thought stayed with him longer than he expected. Days later, after much hesitation, he sat at his wooden table and wrote a letter. He kept it simple. He did not promise wealth or adventure. He wrote about open skies, long days, and a quiet life. He wrote about loneliness without sounding sad. When he finished, he folded the paper carefully, unsure if anything would come from it. Weeks passed. He almost forgot about the letter until one afternoon a reply arrived. The handwriting was careful and thoughtful. The woman who wrote it spoke openly about her past struggles and her desire to start fresh somewhere new. She did not try to impress him. Instead, she described herself honestly, including her fears and hopes. He read the letter more than once. Something about her words felt genuine. He replied slowly, choosing each sentence carefully. Their letters continued over time, growing longer and more personal. They shared stories about daily life, small memories, and dreams they had almost stopped believing in. Through those letters, he began to feel something unfamiliar: anticipation. He found himself checking for mail more often, wondering what she might say next. She asked questions that showed she truly listened. He realized he looked forward to her words in a way that surprised him. Eventually, they agreed she would travel to his town. The plan felt both exciting and frightening. He worried she might be disappointed when she saw his simple life. Still, he prepared carefully. He cleaned the house more thoroughly than ever before and repaired things he had ignored for years. Even the old porch looked new again. News traveled quickly in a small town. People whispered about the arrival of a mail-order bride. Some were curious, others skeptical. A few offered encouragement, while others joked quietly behind his back. He tried not to let it affect him, but the attention made him uneasy. The day of her arrival came sooner than expected. He reached the train station early, standing awkwardly among townsfolk who pretended not to watch him. The sun climbed higher as the train whistle sounded in the distance. His heart beat faster than it had in years. When the train finally arrived, passengers stepped down one by one. Families reunited, travelers greeted friends, and luggage filled the platform. He watched carefully, searching for a face he had only imagined through letters. Minutes passed. The crowd thinned. She did not appear. Confusion turned slowly into disappointment. He checked again, wondering if he had missed her. The conductor confirmed that no passenger by her name had arrived. People nearby began to whisper quietly. Some gave him sympathetic looks that felt heavier than words. He waited longer than necessary, standing beside the empty platform even after the train left. The sky shifted toward evening, and the station grew quiet. Eventually, he accepted what seemed obvious. She had changed her mind or something had gone wrong. Embarrassment settled heavily on his shoulders. He imagined how foolish he must look to everyone watching. Slowly, he turned to leave, telling himself that he should have expected this. Life had taught him not to hope too much. Just as he stepped away, another train whistle echoed across the valley. This train was late, arriving well after sunset. Few people remained at the station, and he almost ignored it. Yet something made him stop. The train pulled in slowly, steam rising into the cool air. A handful of passengers stepped down, looking tired from long travel. Among them was a woman carrying a small, worn bag. She paused at the edge of the platform, scanning the area with uncertain eyes. He recognized her immediately, though they had never met. Something about her presence matched the voice from the letters. She looked exhausted but determined, as if she had faced many challenges just to reach this place. She noticed him standing nearby and walked toward him slowly. Her steps showed hesitation and her eyes held worry. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and careful. She apologized for arriving late and explained that delays and problems along the journey had slowed her down. He listened without interrupting. In that moment, all his earlier disappointment faded. He saw not someone who failed to arrive, but someone who refused to give up despite difficulties. She lowered her gaze, clearly expecting disappointment. The silence stretched between them until he finally spoke. His words were simple but sincere. He told her she was right on time for him. Surprise crossed her face, followed by relief. Neither of them knew exactly what to say next. The moment felt awkward yet meaningful, like the beginning of something fragile. They walked together toward town under a sky filled with early stars. Conversation came slowly at first, built from small questions and quiet laughter. He carried her bag without asking, and she thanked him softly. As they reached the edge of town, both realized that their journey together had just begun. Neither knew what challenges waited ahead, but the fear that had once filled them began to fade, replaced by cautious hope. For the first time in years, the cowboy felt that life might change in ways he had never expected. And for the woman who had traveled so far, the place that once felt uncertain started to feel like the beginning of a new home. The next morning arrived quietly, but for both of them it felt like the beginning of something new and uncertain. The woman woke early in the small guest room of the ranch house, unsure at first where she was. The sounds of wind outside and distant animals reminded her that she was far from the life she once knew. She sat up slowly, listening to the peaceful silence, feeling both nervous and hopeful. The cowboy was already outside working when she stepped onto the porch. He paused when he saw her, offering a small nod instead of many words. He was not a man who spoke easily, but his actions showed kindness. He had left fresh water and breakfast ready for her, unsure of what she might like but wanting her to feel welcome. She thanked him softly, feeling awkward but grateful. They spoke carefully, like two strangers trying to understand each other without rushing. She noticed how he moved slowly and calmly, never pushing conversation too hard. That gave her comfort. Later that day, he showed her around the ranch. The land stretched wide and open, with fences reaching toward distant hills. She listened as he explained the daily routines, feeding animals, repairing equipment, and managing work that never truly ended. The life looked hard but honest. She wanted to help but worried she might make mistakes. He assured her quietly that learning would take time. Together they began with simple tasks, walking side by side as the sun climbed higher. Small moments of laughter appeared when she struggled with unfamiliar tools. Instead of frustration, he showed patience. In town, people quickly noticed her arrival. Curious eyes followed when they visited the store together. Some welcomed her warmly, while others watched silently, unsure what to think. She felt the weight of attention and wondered if she truly belonged here. That evening, she admitted her worries while they sat outside watching the sky change colors. She told him she feared being judged or seen as an outsider. He listened carefully and shared that he also felt like an outsider sometimes, even in his own town. The quiet honesty between them created a deeper connection. Days turned into a steady rhythm. She learned to wake early and join him in small chores. He noticed her determination and respected her effort. She noticed that beneath his quiet nature was a deep kindness that showed through actions rather than words. Still, misunderstandings appeared. One afternoon she overheard townspeople whispering about her, questioning her intentions. The words hurt more than she expected. When she returned to the ranch, she seemed distant and quiet. The cowboy sensed something was wrong but did not know how to ask. He worried that she might regret coming. She worried that she was only a burden to him. The silence between them grew heavier for a few days, filled with thoughts neither of them knew how to express. A turning point came when a sudden problem struck the ranch. A fence had broken during the night, allowing animals to wander too far. The situation required quick action. Without hesitation, she joined him, working alongside him despite exhaustion. They spent hours together fixing the damage. Dust covered their clothes, and sweat mixed with laughter as small mistakes turned into shared jokes. In that moment, they stopped feeling like strangers following an arrangement and began acting like partners solving a real problem together. After finishing, they sat in the shade, tired but satisfied. He thanked her sincerely, surprising her with how openly he spoke. She realized he trusted her more than she had believed. That evening felt different. The air carried warmth not just from the setting sun, but from the growing bond between them. Conversation flowed more easily, moving beyond polite questions into real stories about their past lives. She spoke about the hardships she had faced before leaving her old home, moments that tested her strength, but also shaped her courage. He shared memories of loss and loneliness that explained why he had become so quiet over the years. Listening to each other created understanding. They began to see that both had chosen this path not out of desperation, but out of hope for something better. However, challenges did not disappear. The town's curiosity sometimes turned into pressure. Some people assumed their relationship should move quickly, while others doubted whether it would last. Those expectations created tension neither of them expected. One afternoon, she asked him honestly why he had chosen to write that first letter. He paused for a long moment before answering. He said he wanted something real, not perfection, not fantasy, just someone willing to share ordinary days. His words touched her deeply because they matched her own hopes. She admitted she had feared arriving too late, worried that she had missed her chance at belonging somewhere. He reminded her gently that timing does not always follow plans. As weeks passed, small traditions formed between them. Morning coffee on the porch, evening walks across open fields, quiet conversations that felt safe and unforced. Trust grew slowly but steadily. Yet both still held back certain feelings, unsure if the other felt the same. The fear of disappointment remained hidden beneath their growing comfort. One evening, a sudden rainstorm forced them to rush inside after working outside. They laughed as they tried to stay dry, and in that shared moment of simple joy, something shifted. The walls they had built around themselves began to soften. She realized she no longer felt like a visitor. He realized he no longer felt alone. As the storm passed and the sky cleared, they stood outside watching stars appear one by one. Neither spoke for a long time, but the silence felt peaceful rather than awkward. Both sensed that their connection had moved beyond obligation. Something genuine was growing, something neither had expected when the journey began. Life on the ranch slowly began to feel natural for both of them, but change rarely comes without challenge. The early mornings, shared work, and quiet evenings had built a rhythm between them that felt comfortable. She no longer walked carefully as if she were a guest. Instead, she moved with growing confidence, learning the small details that made daily life smoother. The cowboy noticed the changes before she did. She laughed more often now. She spoke with confidence when meeting people in town. Even the animals seemed to trust her presence. Watching her adapt filled him with a quiet pride he did not fully understand. Still deep inside, both carried fears they had not yet faced. They had built trust through shared work and kindness, but neither had truly spoken about what the future meant for them. The uncertainty stayed between them like an invisible wall. One afternoon, while they were in town collecting supplies, an unfamiliar rider arrived. The stranger carried himself with confidence and seemed to know her. When she saw him, her expression changed instantly. Surprise mixed with discomfort crossed her face. The cowboy noticed the tension but stayed silent, watching carefully. The man greeted her politely, but something in his tone felt heavy with history. Their conversation was short, yet filled with unspoken meaning. Afterward, she became unusually quiet. On the ride back to the ranch, the silence felt different. She avoided his eyes, lost in thought. He wanted to ask questions but respected her space. Patience had always guided him, and he believed she would speak when ready. That evening, she finally explained. The man from town had known her in the past, someone connected to the life she had left behind. He represented memories she had tried to escape, expectations that never felt right and choices that made her feel trapped. Seeing him again reminded her how fragile her new beginning could be. She feared that her past might follow her here and disrupt everything they were building. The cowboy listened without judgment. He did not try to solve her problems or offer quick answers. Instead, he reminded her gently that everyone carries history, but the future belongs to those willing to keep moving forward. Despite his calm words, he felt his own doubts growing. He wondered if she might leave now that her past had returned. He had learned not to hold too tightly to hope, and part of him prepared quietly for disappointment. The days that followed felt heavier. She worked hard but seemed distracted. He focused on tasks more than conversation, unsure how to support her without pushing too hard. Both sensed the distance growing between them but did not know how to close it. Then a sudden challenge changed everything. A strong storm approached faster than expected, bringing harsh winds that threatened the ranch. They had little time to prepare. Together they secured equipment, moved animals to safer areas, and reinforced weak structures. The storm tested their strength and trust. Rain fell heavily, and the wind pushed against them as they worked side by side. In the middle of the chaos, fear disappeared, replaced by focus and cooperation. They moved without needing many words, understanding each other through shared effort. At one moment, a section of fencing began to collapse. Without hesitation, she rushed forward to help, showing courage that surprised him. Working together, they managed to stabilize it just before the worst of the storm arrived. When they finally reached shelter, exhausted and soaked, they looked at each other and laughed, not because the situation was easy, but because they had faced it together. The tension that had grown between them began to fade. During the long night as the storm continued outside, they sat near a small lamp, speaking more openly than ever before. She admitted that seeing her past return had scared her because she worried she did not deserve happiness. He confessed that he feared losing her before truly understanding what she meant to him. The honesty felt like a turning point. Instead of hiding behind silence, they began to share their deeper thoughts. He realized that his quiet nature sometimes made her feel uncertain about where she stood. She realized that her fears sometimes created distance even when she did not intend it. When morning arrived, the storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and fresh air. The ranch showed signs of damage, but nothing they could not repair. As they walked through the fields together, they felt closer than before. In town, people spoke about how they had managed the storm successfully. Respect for her grew as others saw her strength and determination. Slowly, the whispers about her faded, replaced by acceptance. However, the emotional journey was not finished. The man from her past remained nearby, occasionally appearing in town. His presence reminded her that choices must be made. She began to understand that moving forward meant fully embracing her new life, rather than keeping one foot in the past. One evening, while watching the sunset, she told the cowboy that she was no longer afraid of her past. She had chosen to come here, and she wanted to continue choosing this life. His response was simple but meaningful. He told her she had already proven her strength. Their connection deepened quietly. They did not rush into promises, but the way they worked together and supported each other showed something stronger than words. Trust was no longer fragile. It had become steady, built through shared challenges and understanding. As the days moved forward, both sensed that their relationship was changing. What began as an arrangement between strangers was slowly becoming a partnership built on respect and care. Though uncertainty still existed, hope felt stronger than fear. After the storm passed, life on the ranch slowly returned to normal, but something had changed between them. The shared experience had brought them closer in ways neither had expected. They moved around each other with growing ease, understanding small gestures without needing many words. The cowboy noticed how she walked with more confidence now. She no longer hesitated before making decisions or offering ideas. She had become part of the ranch, not just someone passing through. The animals responded to her voice, and even the quiet land seemed to welcome her presence. Despite the calm outside, both felt an unspoken question growing between them. Their bond had deepened, but neither had clearly spoken about what their future together would look like. The silence was not uncomfortable, but it carried weight. One afternoon, they traveled into town for supplies. The familiar streets felt different now because people greeted her warmly. Shop owners asked about her work, and neighbors treated her like she belonged. The acceptance filled her with relief, yet it also made her realize how important this place had become. While they were there, the man from her past appeared again. This time, his presence felt less powerful than before. She greeted him politely but firmly. The cowboy stood nearby, calm but observant. The man spoke about opportunities elsewhere and suggested she might find a different life more suited to her. His words carried old expectations that once influenced her decisions. For a moment, uncertainty crossed her face, but she quickly regained her strength. She explained clearly that she had made her own choice and was building a new path. The conversation ended without conflict, but it marked an important turning point. When they left town, she felt lighter, as if a door behind her had finally closed. The cowboy did not ask many questions, but he understood that something important had happened. That evening, as they worked together repairing a fence, she shared how she felt. She realized that coming here had allowed her to discover who she truly was, not defined by past expectations, but by her own decisions. He listened quietly, feeling both pride and admiration. Yet inside, he struggled with his own fears. He had grown to care for her deeply, but he worried about saying too much and risking everything they had built. Days passed with a quiet tension beneath their routine. They shared laughter and meaningful moments, but something remained unsaid. Both sensed that their relationship had reached a point where they needed clarity. One evening, after a long day of work, they sat together watching the horizon glow with soft colors. The sky stretched endlessly above them, creating a peaceful silence. She broke the quiet first, asking him honestly what he wanted for the future. The question surprised him. He had spent so many years avoiding hope that he struggled to find the right words. After a long pause, he admitted that he wanted companionship built on trust and honesty, something real that could grow slowly but strongly. She listened carefully, her expression soft but serious. She told him she felt the same but feared rushing into something before truly understanding their connection. He agreed, explaining that he did not want their relationship to feel like an obligation tied to letters or expectations. Their conversation lasted long into the night. For the first time, they spoke openly about their feelings, their fears, and the possibility of building a life together by choice rather than arrangement. The honesty brought relief, dissolving the tension that had lingered between them. However, challenges still appeared. A nearby ranch faced difficulties, and the cowboy offered help, knowing it would require long hours away from home. She encouraged him, showing support rather than hesitation. During his absence, she managed responsibilities on her own, proving how capable she had become. When he returned, he found the ranch running smoothly. Her independence impressed him deeply. He realized she was not simply adapting to his world, she was helping shape it into something stronger. The experience strengthened their trust. They began to make decisions together, discussing plans for the ranch and future improvements. These conversations felt natural, as if they had been partners for much longer than they actually had. One evening, a misunderstanding almost created distance again. He made a comment about not wanting to pressure her into staying, believing he was being considerate. She misunderstood his words as uncertainty about her place in his life. For a short time, silence returned between them. Eventually, she confronted him gently, asking if he truly wanted her there. The question forced him to face his fears. He admitted that he wanted her to stay but worried about taking away her freedom. She smiled softly, explaining that choosing to stay was her own decision. The moment brought clarity. They realized that their greatest obstacle had been fear of hurting each other rather than lack of feeling. As winter approached, preparations for colder months filled their days. They worked together closely, sharing plans and hopes for the future. Small moments, cooking meals together, repairing tools, laughing over simple mistakes, became reminders of how far they had come. One quiet morning, as snow touched the ground for the first time, they stood side by side watching the land transform. The beauty of the moment reflected the change within them. What began as uncertainty had grown into something steady and real. Though no grand declarations were made, both understood that they had chosen each other. Their partnership was no longer based on letters or expectations, but on shared experiences and genuine care. Winter settled gently over the land, covering the ranch in soft, white snow that made everything feel quiet and new. The cold air brought challenges, but it also created moments of peace that allowed both of them to reflect on how much their lives had changed. The cowboy woke early one morning and stepped outside, watching the sunrise paint the sky with warm colors. He felt something different inside himself, a calm happiness he had not known for years. The ranch no longer felt empty. Every corner held signs of shared effort and growing partnership. Inside the house, she prepared breakfast, moving comfortably through the kitchen as if she had always belonged there. Small details showed how natural their life together had become. She hummed softly while working, and the sound filled the room with warmth. They spoke easily now, without hesitation or uncertainty. Conversations flowed from simple daily plans to deeper thoughts about dreams and hopes. The distance that once existed between them had disappeared, replaced by quiet understanding. Despite the peaceful routine, both sensed that a final step remained. They had grown close through shared experiences, but neither had fully expressed what their relationship meant for the future. The unspoken question waited patiently between them. One afternoon, the cowboy suggested they ride into town together. The road felt familiar, yet the journey carried new meaning. As they walked through the streets, people greeted them warmly. The town that once watched with curiosity now welcomed them as a pair. At the local store, neighbors spoke about how much she had become part of the community. Her kindness and hard work had changed many opinions. She smiled politely, but felt deeply moved by the acceptance. Later, they walked toward the train station, the same place where they had first met. The platform looked almost unchanged, yet it felt different because of the memories they now shared. They stood quietly for a moment, remembering that evening when she arrived late and feared everything had been ruined. She laughed softly, recalling how nervous she had been. He admitted that he had nearly left before the second train arrived. The thought made both of them realize how easily their lives could have gone in different directions. She asked him gently if he ever regretted waiting. He shook his head without hesitation. He told her that every moment had led to something meaningful. His words carried deep sincerity, and she felt her heart grow lighter. As they watched another train pass through the station, he spoke more openly than ever before. He admitted that he had stopped believing in new beginnings before she arrived. Her presence had changed not only his daily life, but also his understanding of hope. She listened carefully, feeling both surprised and grateful. She told him that she had once believed she arrived too late to start again, too late to find a place where she truly belonged. But now she understood that timing had brought her exactly where she needed to be. The conversation became a quiet turning point. Without grand gestures or dramatic declarations, they acknowledged what had been growing between them since the beginning, a partnership built on trust, patience, and shared choices. When they returned to the ranch, the evening sky glowed softly above the fields. The air felt calm and full of promise. They worked together on small tasks before sitting on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object he had been carrying for days. It was simple and meaningful, not extravagant but filled with intention. He offered it to her with a quiet smile, asking if she would continue building a life with him, not because of past arrangements, but because of what they had become together. She felt emotion rise gently, not overwhelming but steady and certain. She accepted, knowing that their relationship had grown naturally through time and shared effort. The moment felt real because it was built on understanding rather than expectation. The days that followed felt brighter. They began planning the future together, expanding the ranch, creating new traditions, and welcoming the idea of a shared home filled with laughter. The work remained hard, but it no longer felt heavy because they faced it side by side. Spring eventually approached, melting the snow and revealing green fields beneath. The changing season reflected their journey, from uncertainty to growth, from loneliness to connection. One morning, as they walked across the land together, she paused and looked around with a smile. She realized she no longer felt like someone who had arrived late. Instead, she felt like someone who had arrived exactly when she was meant to. The cowboy noticed her expression and asked what she was thinking. She answered simply that sometimes life does not follow perfect timing, but it brings people together when they are ready to recognize what truly matters. He agreed quietly, remembering the words he had spoken at the train station on their first meeting. Those words had become the foundation of everything that followed. Their story did not end with dramatic change or sudden perfection. Instead, it continued through everyday moments, shared meals, long conversations, and the steady rhythm of life built together.